In this lecture, we're getting into one of the greatest aspects of game development, and that is scene management. So when we bump into something, we're reloading our level using the scene manager. Let's get started. If you cast your eyes up to the top left of Unity, you will see File. Under File, there's Build Profiles. That brings up an extra window that allows us to build to a whole bunch of different platforms. We can build to Windows or the web or mobile devices, etc. It also allows us to manage our scene list. So within the scene list, we can say, what are the scenes that we will have in our game? And it's got scene list deleted, which is not a lot of use here. It's been deleted already. Great sample scene. So I'm just going to click on the actual delete button to properly delete it from our list here. And I'm going to click on Add Open Scenes button. That will add in our sandbox scene. If I click on Project and find our scenes, you can see down here, a little bit of room, we've got sandbox. So you can either click to add the open scene, which is what we've loaded at the moment, or if I delete that, I can just drag sandbox into my scene list. So scenes are a way for us to manage, for our particular project, to manage levels. So each scene is going to be a level 1, level 2, level 3 are going to be different scenes. You can use scenes in many different ways in Unity. Levels is just one way of using it. That's what we're going to do at the moment. So click out of that. We've now put our one scene into our list of scenes. So Unity knows, okay, you've got a list of scenes. Actually, File, Build Profiles. I'm going to go back to there for a second. You can see it's got an index of 0. Like a lot of concepts in programming, it starts at 0. The very first thing is index of 0. And if we have a second one, it'll be 1, third one, 2, and so on. So we've just got one in there, and its name is sandbox and its index is 0. That's important information for later on. And what we're going to do is the equivalent of, say, when we click play, we're flying, say we crash into something, and then when we crash, boom, it stops, and then we click play again. Our rocket gets reset back to the start because this particular scene knows start yourself and end yourself when this play button is clicked and unclicked. But obviously the play and stop button is something that us developers have. The player won't have a play and stop button. So we need to tell Unity a way of doing a similar kind of mechanism to that. What we're going to do is to reload the scene when you bump into something. I want to show you briefly as well our scene manager class within our scene management namespace, and within our scene manager class we have a whole bunch of things that we can access, these static methods in here: load scene, merge scene, set active scene, and so on. The thing that we're interested in, this method of load scene, if we click on that, you can see there's a whole bunch of information in here, but basically when we're calling load scene, we need to be passing in some of this information, either the scene build index, which I showed a moment ago was 0, that's the number that our scene is, or the scene name as a string, and ours is called sandbox. So we can use either of those two. You might want to use the name if you don't know what number it's going to be. You might have, say, menu, and menu doesn't necessarily fit within a sequence, so you want to actually call it by its specific name when you're loading it. Or you might just want to say, hey, load the next one. So if we're currently on 1, then load 2. If we're on 2, then load 3. And in that case, having it as a number is a lot more useful. Okay, and I think you're ready for a challenge. I think I've given you enough information here for a challenge. So use SceneManager.loadScene, which I was showing you just now, to load the current scene and therefore respawn our rocket ship when it collides with the ground. So it's respawning or reloading the scene. And a reminder, you'll need to use the Unity Engine.SceneManagement namespace. So there you go, just a couple of lines to implement. Pause the video and take on that challenge. Okay, I'm in my collision handler. That's the spot that makes sense for us to be loading these things. Under my using Unity Engine, I'm going to add using Unity Engine dot scene management, semicolon. And so within my switch statement here, when do I want to reload the level? If I bump into something friendly, no. If I have a conversation with someone from Finland, no. If I bump into fuel that's probably not going to be in our game anyway, no. If I bump into anything else, yes. That's when we crash into the world. So I'm going to get rid of my debug.log, and instead of that, I'm going to simply say SceneManager.loadScene, and in my parentheses, I'm going to put 0. So I'm just going to load the first scene, which is scene index of 0, save that up, back into Unity. Click on play, crash into something, and boom, and it goes straight back and loads where we were before. Cool, with a little bit of a stutter in there, which is great. Does it do that with the ground as well? Do we have collision there? Boom, yep, and it loads. Excellent, so we've done what we wanted to do. We've got the functionality. However, there's a little bit of better programming practice tidying up we can do in here. There's a bunch of things we might want to do when we're reloading the scene. So let's get into the habit of creating this as a method and putting it outside of our switch statement. Keep our switch statement as tidy as possible. So where's our switch statement end? It's that curly bracket there. So just down under here, I'm going to create myself a new method, which I will call what? Reload level, parentheses. Now I need to put my void in front of this because it's got a void return type. And then I want to have my curly braces. So I've got void reload level. And I'm going to grab my SceneManager.load scene, cut that and put it inside reload level. Boop, paste. And then within my default in my switch statement, I will call reload level and parentheses semicolon. So just to recap, we're reloading our level as a method. And within our reload method, we're using SceneManager.load scene. Now, let's get a little bit more sophisticated. Instead of just putting in a 0 anytime we've got magic numbers, it's like, oh, I don't know about that. So let's give ourselves a variable. So up above our SceneManager load scene, we'll create an integer because load scene is looking for an integer. So an integer we'll call current scene. And how are we going to get access to our current scene? Well, I kind of know a bit of a secret here because I read the Unity documents. SceneManager.get active scene will say, what is the scene index? So let me just go back and show you that. File, build profiles. What is the scene index over here, the 0, of the one we are currently on? And we're currently on sandbox, therefore the scene index would be 0. But if we're on one of our other levels, it will find that particular scene index. And we need to use our parentheses here because that's a method. Dot build index is the actual index. So this is, hey, pay attention to the scene and then get me the number or get me the index. And then semicolon. And the last little bit here, a little micro challenge. I shouldn't put my cursor there. That'll give the clue. That'll tell you exactly what to do. Don't look at that. So what is the last little step we need to do here for us to be loading our current scene? Well, that was a pretty easy clue, I think. So load scene in our parentheses current scene. We're passing in that variable that we grabbed just there. So sometimes to make clearer code, we have to add some extra lines, but this also means if we add more content to reload level, if we're changing things up, if we want to get cleverer with how we're loading the current scene, we've got the framework in there, we've got the structure for it. So let's go back to Unity, make sure that works the way we expect it to before we congratulate ourselves too much. Boom, that crashes and reloads there, and boom, that crashes and reloads there. There we go. There's an introduction to scene management, one of the greatest aspects of game development, loading levels and loading scenes. So I will see you in the next lecture.